there will be a recording of it, which will be published on the buddhacenter.org weblog that we also of the Bodhicaryavatara by Shantideva, which is a manual of how to become a bodhisattva. I say it in a very short way. And 3 weeks ago, we started on chapter 9, and chapter 9 is the chapter on wisdom. And it is arguably the most technical chapter in the Bodhicaryavatara, and perhaps also in the whole of Buddhist philosophy and commentary. Yes, I'll give them to you after the teaching, if you don't mind. Right, okay, you're welcome. I also told the last time when we started on this chapter that in retreat it had taken me 18 months and 2 hours a week of constant teaching to get through chapter 9 alone. And it's very central. It's also central in the debate between different schools of Tibetan philosophers. It's also important in the split that there is between, for instance, the Gelugpa school and other schools. So it's pretty central to a lot in Tibetan philosophy. And the last time we had gotten to, I think, stanza 2 of chapter 9. I'll pull it up myself. Yes, we had gotten to stanza 2. And we're now going on with stanza 3. Stanza 2 reads, this truth is recognized as being of two kinds, conventional and ultimate. Ultimate reality is beyond the scope of the intellect, and the intellect is called conventional reality. So, just to track back a little bit. Okay. Just to find my way. Yeah, just to track back a little bit. The one thing that Shantideva is doing here, because he has these 8 chapters on what it is, and those are things that all concentrate on acting. So, for instance, we need to practice generosity, we need to make offerings, we need to honor the Buddhas, we need to think about our fellow human beings in a certain way, we need to meditate, we need to be attentive to distractions. So these are all very practical things that we must practice. And those can all be found in the preceding 8 chapters of the Bodhicaryavatara. And then in chapter 9, he goes on to expound wisdom to us. So what he does in chapter 9, in those very first verses, is first he establishes a point of departure for what he is going to do in the next verses, being refuting all attacks to Madhyamika philosophy. And Madhyamika philosophy is the philosophy of the middle way. And the middle way here is the middle way between having a nihilistic worldview, maintaining that nothing exists really, and on the other hand, a worldview that maintains that things have a solid nature of their own accord. And in Sanskrit we call that svabhava, so self-nature. So the Madhyamika philosophy is between these two extreme points. And we'll go deeper into that later on. So the first thing that he does in that second verse that reads like this truth is recognized as being of two kinds, conventional and ultimate. Ultimate reality is beyond the scope of the intellect. The intellect is called conventional reality. The first thing that he does, what we are asked to do, is that we need to go beyond the view, which was held by a lot of philosophical schools at that time, that all phenomena, all affected phenomena, so that's all phenomena that are non-static, which is including the self, have in some way a true existence. Because for certain philosophical schools, anything that has an effect on something else must have a true existence, otherwise the effect would not exist. So reality, in that view, is proved by its effect. And those schools maintain that the self is void from being a solid and an unaffected soul, because it cannot be separate from sense perception, and it cannot be separate from anything that sort of aggregates in the effect that it causes. And so, as a functional phenomenon, it must be existent. So they say, because the aggregates exist, because the effects of the self exist, because experience exists, the self must also exist. It cannot be known on its own, but it still functions, even though it functions like an illusion. So if we can understand that even the self is empty, that even that does not exist, and we can gain an intellectual conviction of that, then we can go deeper into the Madhyamika philosophy. I said in the announcement that there would be 30 minutes for teaching and then 30 minutes for discussion. But I want to invite questions now at this point, because it's important that we all understand this point before I can go on. And I also must say that this is a highly technical chapter of philosophy, this chapter 9, and it's traditionally difficult. So it's really postdoctorate work that we're doing here in terms of Tibetan philosophy. So any questions at this point? That must mean that everyone understands this. Phoenix Mike, I'll give you and Bunny the preceding 8 chapters. But I must also say that those 8 chapters don't lead up to this chapter 9. No, they don't. So does at this point everyone understand what Shantideva means by this truth is recognized as being of 2 kinds, conventional and ultimate realities beyond the scope of the intellect, and the intellect is called conventional reality? Everyone's clear with that. God, it's taken me years. And you will publish it in 10 minutes. That's really wonderful. Yes, but I think it's a distinction that's important to understand. And I think one of the keys, at least to me, but then I'm built that way, I think. Well, no, you can just say, I don't understand it, explain it better. Because then I'll have to explain it better. So never take my words just because I speak them. Yeah. Okay, thank you, I will. The key is language.